Alright, Shalom. First and foremost, call Halal Yamla, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaRachakodash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, and the elders, a great millstone that I learned this truth from. And also peace and salutations to the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. And pretty much in this video, I'm going to be responding to an article, as you see here on the screen, from thepeoplesvoice.tv. Alright, and as you see the title of the article, it says, Lindsey Graham puts Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens on notice. It says, quote, "We are killing people who criticize Israel." Alright. And as it goes into, it says, Senator Lindsey Graham told a pro-Israel donor audience that the government is, quote, killing all the right people who criticize Israel, dismissing concerns about dissenting voices, including Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. Okay. Then it also goes into speaking at a closed-door meeting on the Republican J-ish, coalition. Graham brushed aside anxiety among donors about the rise of anti-interventionist figures like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Nick Fuentes. All right, which interventionists? Let's see what that means. Right, interventionist from Oxford Dictionary of English. It means favoring intervention, especially by a government in its domestic economy or by one state in the affairs of another. Okay, let's see. That's like it. Let's do a Google search on it. Oh, I have it right here. Alright. Intervention means this is off of Google. It says the action or process of intervening. Then it also goes into involvement, intercession, interceding, okay, mediation, peacemaking, alright, meddling, okay. And so as it says right here on this article, it says, speaking at a closed-door meeting of the Republican J-ish coalition, Graham brushed aside anxiety among donors about the rise of anti-interventionist figures like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and Nick Fuentes. Okay, yeah, and basically because these three individuals named right here, okay, they're basically looked at as, they're getting in the way of relations between the United States and Israel, okay, or they're interfering with the business, okay, between the United States and the state of Israel. All right, looking at them as pretty much just in the way, so to speak, right? And it says, assuring the room that the Republican Party remains firmly aligned with militarism, tax cuts for elites, and unconditional support for the small hats. Okay, because if you've been checking out all right if you've been checking out over these past few years, okay, people by the likes of Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, over these past few years, they've been going hard over the small hats, okay, cursing them out, calling them out, doing all these different interviews, okay, doing podcasts, right, going on these different social media platforms, going hard, speaking out against the small hats, making certain points, calling out certain things, calling out certain agendas, calling out how, the United States has all this, this unconditional support for the small hats, okay, aiding them in, financing them, right, and financing their military, okay, and helping them pretty much, do away with the, people out there in Gaza, okay. And so, as it's going into, this guy Lindsey Graham, okay, as it speaks of in the book of Psalm 64 chapter, talks about the secret counsel of the wicked, how it will come to a point where their own tongues will fall upon themselves. Okay, as there will, be an inquisition upon Esau, Edom in his outer days, right? A thorough investigation from the spirit of Yahweh Bashim Shai. Okay, there will be a shameful spewing all over Esau's glory, especially over Amalek's glory, as you have, all kinds of people on the internet speaking out against the small hats. Okay, even a lot of these maggers, okay, these MAGA Edomites here in America are now divided up when it comes to the small hats. Okay, and so as you have a lot of speech online on social media and whatnot, YouTube, okay, of people getting online and speaking out against the small hats. Now it's at a point where now Esau pretty much wants to start offing people that are speaking out against, okay, that certain group of people that you can't speak about. Okay, and that's this guy Lindsey Graham, okay, which I believe is a senator here in the United States. Okay, he basically spilled the beans, okay, on Esau's agenda going forward. Okay, where they literally want to or start offing people that are criticizing, all right, the certain group of people that you can't speak against, all right, the tiny tops, all right. And mind you as well, people like Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, okay, these are people that more than likely are controlled opposition. Okay, these are pretty much plants set up by Esau Edom to be used to basically attack free speech. Okay, using certain talking points that they make against the state of Israel and the small tops. Okay, and using them to attack free speech, and especially using them to attack anybody that's online criticizing the state of Israel. Okay, with the whole anti-Sem thing, right? And as a matter of fact, you even had the other day this particular pro-Israel billionaire, okay, who came on this one particular news site, which brothers have done videos on it, where this billionaire, this pro-Israel billionaire, pretty much wants the U.S. government to take full control over these different social media platforms. Okay, especially combating certain people that are online criticizing Israel. Okay, speaking out against the small tops. All right, and even to the point as these two horns like a lamb. All right, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party, both pursuant to Revelation 13 verse 11, is getting ready to a point where they're getting ready to speak as a dragon. Okay, draconian laws, draconian measures, especially when it comes to all the anti Israel talk that's spreading throughout social media, okay, and spreading throughout the internet. All right, and so I just see right here again, Lindsey Graham puts Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens on notice. Quote, "We are killing people who criticize Israel." All right, and let me get Revelation 13. Revelation 13, this is speaking of, okay, the revival of the fourth beast, the revival of the ancient Greco-Roman Empire, which is through America, NATO, and the EU. Okay, this is Revelation 13 verse 15. It says, "And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast." Okay, who is the he? Okay, Esau Edom. All right, via America along with NATO and the EU. Okay, and what is the image of the beast going to? Okay, basically speaks to how America along with NATO and EU pretty much model themselves or resemble themselves after the ancient Greco-Roman Empire via the architecture, okay, the government structure, certain laws. Okay, you have the Republican Party, which goes back to ancient Rome, the Roman Republic. Okay, you also have of course stadiums and arenas, coliseums, which goes back to ancient Rome, right? A Senate, which goes back to ancient Rome. All right, concrete bridges, okay, fast food, the use of the eagle, which goes back to ancient Rome as well as ancient Greece. Okay, just like democracy goes back to ancient Greece. So not only is America, NATO, and the EU the revival of ancient Rome, but it's also the revival of ancient Greece as well. Okay, which, mind you, in history, both ancient Rome and ancient Greece were two empires ran by the biblical Edomites. Okay, and here today, America, along with NATO and EU, is ran by who? None other than the biblical Edomites. Okay, starting from the Renaissance period up to the 1400s up until now. All right, they pretty much revived ancient Rome and ancient Greece. Okay, and now Esau wants to take it a step even further to set up the NWO agenda. All right, governed by technology, technocracy, AI, pseudoscience, and then of course the MOTB, as you continue reading down. But it says, Revelation 13 verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. You see, Amalek, okay, the small tops are a part of this, unofficially, of course, but in a certain roundabout way, they're a part of this beast system as well. Okay, as they have close ties with, Babylon the Great, America. Okay, pretty much America is doing the bidding of the state of Israel. Okay, why you think as of lately, you see America, going, of course, over the years, going throughout the so-called Middle East, bombing and destroying these different so-called Arab nations, okay, to further the dominance of the state of Israel within the so-called Middle East region, right? And then as we see of lately, okay, the U.S. Pretty much, in conflict with Venezuela, okay, taking their oil, kidnapping that President Maduro, and then now having our eyes on Greenland, Cuba, Mexico, all right, these different nations throughout the, Western Hemisphere, okay. And when you go into it, it's all ultimately for the benefit of the small tops, okay, because the way that America is moving, okay, they're pretty much moving to, to expand the NWO agenda throughout the Western Hemisphere, okay, Canada, all right. But as I said, as it went into in Revelation 13 verse 15, those that will not worship the image of this beast system should be killed, okay. And that also includes speaking out against the small hats, okay. If you're speaking out against the small tops, criticizing the state of Israel, right, then ultimately Esau's going to have laws, is going to pass laws, all right, draconian laws, to have you killed, okay. When you go into the word killed in Revelation 13 verse 15, okay, this word killed,
Strong's G 615, apartino,
all right, okay, to kill, to destroy, to allow it to perish, okay, going to being physically and carnally put to death, right? And that's what it's getting ready to come to. All right, these small hats, as there's a shameful spewing all over their glory, they're being called out, okay. They pretty much want to clap back and pretty much start offing people that are online, criticizing them, okay. And again, people like Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson, right? They're ultimately used as controlled opposition, okay, for free speech to be attacked, and especially the criticism of the state of Israel to ultimately be attacked, okay. And then of course, when you go into the root word of this word killed, okay, Strong's G 575, apo, it also goes into separation, okay, separation, and that's also coming as well, okay. Those that don't bow the knee and conform to the NWO agenda, those that don't receive the MOTB, those that don't want to link themselves with machine and link themselves with all this AI and biometrics that Esau is getting ready to set up in these latter days, okay. You won't be able to participate in society. You won't be able to buy and sell. You won't be able to receive universal basic income, okay. You won't have access to certain things within the NWO, all right. But these are the things that this word kill goes into, not only being physically killed and being sent back to the spirit world, but also separation, okay. And hey, Esau's already making a separation right now. Why you think you have all these data centers being built up across the country? Okay, to collect data on people. Okay, collect data on things that people are posting online. Okay, against the NWO agenda, against against all the wickedness of Babylon the Great America, and against all the wickedness of the small tops. Okay, AI is collecting all the data on people that are online speaking certain things, so that when Esau's ready to make his NWO move, he can categorize people. All right, and ultimately, what, as it says in Isaiah 29, all right, make a man an offender for a word. Okay, Isaiah 29 verse 20, it says, "For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed." Okay, the terrible one, the tyrant, the oppressor. Okay, the true terrorists of the earth, being who? Esau, Edom, starting with Amalek. Okay, they're being brought to naught. Okay, they're being cast down by what? Okay, first and foremost by the word of Yahweh Shema Shai going forth throughout the earth, via the men of the Lord, via this testimony that we're preaching according to the scriptures, right? Casting down Esau's stronghold, casting down his image, casting down his beast system and his image and his mark, right? And it says, the scorner is consumed. Okay, consumed with what? The spirit of the Lord's mouth, as it says in 2 Thessalonians 2. All right, and it says, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. Yeah, and it's gonna come to a point, where the Lord, for a minute is gonna let Esau, Edom, okay, attempt to establish his NWO agenda, right? Come with the charagma, the MOTB, which is the micro CIP, implement all kinds of AI, mass surveillance everywhere, right? Biometric technology, UBIs, social credit score, okay? But then it's going to come to a point where the Lord's going to throw a monkey wrench in his plan, okay? And ultimately cut this devil off, all right? And destroy him upon the return of Yahweh Shai, with the brightness of his coming. It says, verse 21, that make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in a gate, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Man, Esau, Edom is going to make a man an offender for a word, okay, for speaking out against Babylon the Great, for speaking out against the NWO agenda, and especially speaking out against the small tops. Okay, he's going to make you an offender for a word, label you as a seed theorist, okay, an extremist or a radical, this and the third, anti-SEM, okay, and it's going to lead to what? It's going to, justify Esau to lay a snare for you, okay, by taking you off of social media, okay, not allowing you to access certain places and certain things because because you're going to have a low credit score, right? And ultimately lay a snare for you to justify pretty much offing you, okay, sending you back to the spirit world, all right? And it says, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Yeah, and the NWO agenda, the small tops, they're all a thing of naught at the end of the day, because the Lord is going to destroy this whole wicked plan and wicked agenda of Esau, Edom. Want to stick a micro CIP inside of all humanity, right? Recreate man in his own left-hand image, okay? Demonize anybody that's speaking out against the wickedness and the atrocities of the small tops, right? Just go all out, okay, with this left-hand plans in his NWO agenda, all because what? Because Esau, Edom knows that he has but a short time left, all right? And let me also get this. Let's go to Isaiah 32. Isaiah 32. You know what? Let's put the NLT next to this. Isaiah 32 and verse 7. It says, the instruments also of the churro are evil. He deviseth wicked devices to destroy the poor with lying words, even when the needy speaketh right. Okay, verse 7 in NLT. The smooth tricks of scoundrels are evil. All right, and what Esau Edom is doing with his whole anti-SEM agenda, okay, using AI to crack down on people that he deems as speaking, hate speech or misinformation or anti-sim speech. Okay, they're smooth tricks. All right, although they're tacky as hell, but okay, if you're not in the spirit, all right, and if you're ignorant to the device of Satan, Esau, Edom in his outer days, then you're gonna you're gonna be taken by these things. These things are gonna be smooth tricks being pulled upon you. All right, but hey, as it says in 2 Corinthians, we the hopeful elect, we're not ignorant to Satan's devices. Okay, we're not ignorant to Esau, Edom's devices that he's doing after the working of Satan. All right, it says the smooth tricks of scoundrels are evil. They plot crooked schemes. It says they lie to convict the poor, even when the cause of the poor is just. Okay, even when you're speaking rightly. All right, Esau wants to scheme against you. Okay, label you, gaslight you. All right, and then ultimately pass draconian measures to ultimately off you, all because of you calling out his wickedness and exposing him. All right, and putting a shameful spewing on his glory, his wicked satanic demonic glory. Okay, and let me also get this. Psalms 37 verse 14, the wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow to cast down the poor and needy, and to slay such as be of upright conversation. Okay, hey, to just simply, okay, call out a wickedness. Okay, call out, all right, the the pedo agenda that's going on within the higher ups of this world. All right, to call out, all these wars and fraud and ill dealings that's going on in Esau's world by Esau Edom himself through this beast system. Okay, Esau wants to draw out the sword against you. Okay, Esau's going to persecute you for speaking out against wickedness, speaking out against evil, right? Because that's all this devil wants promoted throughout the society. Hey, and mind you, as I've been saying over these past few months, okay, the main number one threat against Esau Edom and his NWO agenda and his beast system as a whole is not the sword, okay, because Esau already dominates in those fields. The sword, militias, right? That's his blessing, okay, but instead, the number one threat against Esau Edom and his whole agenda and his system is truth, okay? Truth is the number one threat against the NWO and against the small hats. So therefore what? Those that are speaking particular truths, okay, Esau has drawn out the sword against them and bent the bow, okay, and getting ready to pass unrighteous decrees, right, and draconian measures to justify crashing out and coming down great wrath against those that are of upright conversation, okay, speaking particular truths and speaking out against the small hats and speaking out against genocide and lies and corruption and bribery and all these things, okay. Hey, this devil gotta go. Okay, Esau Edom has to go. Okay, he needs to be judged from on high from Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, point blank period. Alright, and of course we know as well that this is all going to ultimately boil down to Esau Edom coming after the men of the Lord. Okay, literally seeking to put to death the men of the Lord, okay, that are preaching the Holy Scriptures, the word of Yahweh Shema Shai, against Esau Edom the wicked, revealing who the wicked is, against his beast system and his image and his mark, and against the other small tops, okay, as it speaks of right here in Revelation 12 verse 17. It says, and the dragon, okay, the revival of ancient Rome, the fourth beast in Daniel 7, it says, okay, the dragon, all right, America, NATO, and the EU, it says, was wroth with the woman, okay, Israel. Israel is likened to a comely and delicate woman, pursuant to the book of Jeremiah. And it says, okay, it says, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. All right, so Esau Edom is getting ready to crash out. He's getting ready to come down great wrath, as we always bring out when you read up above in this chapter, okay. And you best believe the large portion of his great wrath is going to be aimed towards the true Israelites, so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, but especially more importantly, those of us that are of the remnant, the hopeful elect, okay, which what? which keep the commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, we keep the laws to the best of our ability. All right, and of course the commandments ultimately goes into what? The volume of the book. Hey, not bowing the knee to this beast system or his image or take his mark is a commandment. Okay, and it says, and have the testimony of Yahweh Shai Mashiach. And what is the testimony of Yahweh Shai? The spirit of prophecy pursuant to Revelation 19 verse 10, which speaks against what? Esau, Edom, the wicked, the man of sin. All right, speaking out against Amalek, the small tops, speaking out against his beast system and his image and his mark, speaking out against the NWO agenda. All right, this testimony includes speaking out against the elite banking families of Esau, Edom, who are at the forefront of all the wickedness throughout the four corners of the earth. Okay, so a large portion of Esau coming down great wrath is going to include persecuting those of us that are of the hopeful elect. Okay, that keep the commandments of Yahweh Shema Shai, which includes not bowing the knee or taking a charagma, but instead what? Speaking a testimony against this whole entire wicked system. Okay, and preaching that according to this testimony that Yahweh Shema Shai is getting ready to bring judgment upon Esau, Edom. Okay, starting with Amalek. Okay, the small tops. All right, we're the ones who Esau, Edom, really wants to target, because we're the only hope, okay, of righteousness being able to continue throughout the earth, through the Holy Spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Hey, why you think Yahweh Shai told us in the book of Matthew? He told us to the disciples, but this also applies to us, the hopeful elect. He said, "Ye are the salt of the earth." Okay, why you think he said that? Because when you go into that word salt in the Greek, it goes into how salt was used as a preserving agent back in ancient times. Okay, to preserve food, goods, right? And we, the hopeful elect, we're this sacrifice and this truth that we're preaching, all right, under Yahweh Shai's sacrifice, of course, is literally the only thing that's going to preserve righteousness being able to forward on the earth after Esau is taken down. Okay, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Shema Shai. Okay, so Esau, Edom wants to take out the elect, all right, us, the hopeful elect, because we represent the last hope of the earth in the Lord's creation. Okay, that's why Yahweh Shai said, when these tribulations and these troubles come, all right, persecution, Jacob's trouble, all right, the Lord got to shorten up these days, or else what? No flesh should be saved. Okay, hey, but the beauty of it all is up here in verse 11, Revelation 12 verse 11. It says, and they overcame him. Who's the they? Us, the remnant, the hopeful elect. Who's the him? Esau, Edom, who runs his beast system. Okay, it says, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, Yahweh Shai. Okay, and by the word of their testimony, this gospel that we preach, and they loved not their lives unto the death. You see that? So the same gospel that Esau is getting ready to persecute us for is the same gospel, the same testimony that's going to help us overcome this devil and his system. All right, and ultimately being covered by the blood of Mashiach Yahweh Shai. All right, so Lord willing, this video is edifying, and until next time, shalom.